Well, hi friends, Prepared Suburbanite here. Got a lot of things to talk about in this video, but first we're going to bottle some homebrewed beer. So stick around. A couple of years ago, my eldest granddaughter bought us, or bought me, I guess, a Mr. Beer home brewing kit. And it came with this barrel jug. It's just a plastic jug that you actually brew the beer in. And it came with a can of malt, the yeast, I think some sugar tablets, and a package of cleanser for the kit and for the bottles that we're going to be using. So what we're going to do right now is go through the process of bottling the beer. We did this a couple of weeks ago. We mixed up the malt and the water, followed the directions. We've done this a number of times in the past. The beer comes out very, very good. I'm a big fan of an IPA, a good hoppy, with a nice bitter aftertaste. I am just a huge fan of that, and there's two styles, or two kinds that Mr. Beer puts out. One is the Diablo IPA, and that's this one, and it's really, really good. And the other one they call Long Play IPA. Both available from Amazon. They're 18 to 20 bucks. You get enough to do 18 to 21 or 22 bottles of beer. So it's, you know, it's a little expensive, but you get the fun of brewing the beer, bottling the beer, and all that. I had this bottle capper from when I was really into doing home brewing a number of years ago. And we kept it around, and it just super came in handy for this. Now, Mr. Beer is not a sponsor. I bought all this stuff myself, but I really do endorse the quality of their product. It's a lot of fun to make, kind of a fun little project during the day. So we're going to be bottling here a little bit, and I'll be talking a little bit about what I saw during the midterm elections, what I think the impact is going to be of the midterm election outcomes. If they ever get the Florida thing decided, then I guess we'll know exactly where we ended up. But for right now, let's brew some beer.
Lucy is putting sugar in the bottles.
Yep, a little tab of that sugar in there. That'll interact with the yeast and make this an alcoholic adult beverage. So we got the capper, we got the bottle. It's full. There's about an inch of space at the top there. Pop it down, we're done. So we ended up with 20 12-ounce bottles of beer out of this brew. We're going to be cleaning this stuff up, so I'm going to shut the video off for a couple of minutes and we'll be right back. So brewing beer, a lot of fun, basically a two-step process. The first step is to mix the malt, the water, and the yeast in the little plastic keg that you get from Mr. Beer, and let it mix it up good. Let it set for about 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks. We generally let it go 12 to 14 days. And then comes the bottling step, which we just did, and that adds the sugar, puts it in a bottle and caps it. So the sugar acts with the yeast, turns it into beer, and once you get them all capped, you put them in a cool dark spot for maybe 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks, and then you can enjoy your beer. But on to the midterm elections. I saw an article on CNN yesterday, I think, and it basically said, white supremacists are celebrating the Republican victory in the midterms. Well, I didn't see it that way, and I think they're wrong to be celebrating any kind of a Republican victory. There was no Republican victory at all, in my estimation. Historically, sitting presidents lose party seats in the House and the Senate. This one was just slightly different because I think we picked up a net of 2 in the Senate, but we lost a whole bunch, 30 or 40 seats in the House. I lost count on however many we lost. But what has happened is the Democrats are now going to be in charge, the dominant party in the House of Representatives, and they've already begun telegraphing their strategy for the next 2 years leading up to the 2020 election. And it sounds like they have this pretty well thought out. It's going to be 2 years of obstructionism, of multiple investigations into every word that Donald Trump has ever said, every action that he's ever taken, every action that his 2 sons and his daughter and all that have made. There's going to be investigations galore. And what's going to happen, because that seems to be a priority, along with the push to get an impeachment process started, that we're going to be derailed from what I would consider the really important stuff. And yeah, I understand that folks on the left want to get rid of Donald Trump because they just don't like him. And I don't think I've ever seen an election that's been so motivated by hateful rhetoric than this election has been. It's been just nasty. The next 2 years are going to be pretty much watch your back. If you're a Republican, if you're a conservative, watch your back. Everything's going to get investigated. Every action, every executive order that Trump has done in the last 2 years is going to be challenged, and it's going to be a mess. The assets in the federal government are going to be so absorbed in these investigations, in this legality stuff that they're pushing on right now, the impeachment procedures. Thankfully, there are still some cool heads in the Senate, so I'm not sure how much of this is actually going to get turned into real legislation. But the House of Representatives, they're the ones that are in charge of the money. So if they want to cut funding for that program or this program, or restore funding for that program or this program, That's well within the constitutionally derived powers of the House of Representatives. So I suspect that over the next 2 years, we're going to see an onslaught, a huge onslaught of liberty-taking, freedom-restricting kinds of legislation coming out of the House of Representatives. I'm worried about gun control. I think that's going to be a big issue. I'm worried that they're going to undo the tax breaks. That's going to cool off the economy. That they're going to try to restore provisions of Obamacare that are going to be a continuing burden on small businesses. All that added up, if you look at it from my perspective anyway, and I may disagree with a lot of the pundits out there, but folks are saying right now that the stock market is doing such a poor job, it's declining in value because of the Trump administration. No. My cut on that is the stock market was primed a little bit for the outcome that we saw, and it was predicted in the polls. They were somewhat primed, but as it unfolded and they really began thinking about what the outcome is going to be over the next 2 years, the investors on Wall Street said, hey, wait a minute, we're going to be pulling back in. We're going to be restricting investment. We're not going to be dealing with research and development as much as we did when we were under the impression that everything was going to get better, because the Democrats are now going to be exerting quite a bit of power in Washington. The bottom line is that the stock market is reacting to that. A restriction in the economy, tightening, more regulations, rescinding tax cuts, those kinds of things, and they're concerned about it. And that's why I think the stock market is in a tailspin. Elections do have consequences. This is a historical pattern. Not surprised that it happened this way. I am very disappointed that there were so many seats in the House of Representatives that flipped from Republican to Democrat. But it's the sign of the times. As a prepper, and if you're thinking about becoming a prepper, or if you're already invested in being a prepper, now's the time really to take a hard look at what you've got, because I think bad times are coming. So take a look at what you've got for food storage, for water storage, for shelter, for backup, and for self-defense. It's well worth your time to do that, and it's now time to really take a look at your budget and invest in those areas in your prepping plan that need to be shored up, because I think we're going to need it. This is the Prepared Suburbanite, looking forward to enjoying a beer with you real soon. Stay out of trouble, and remember, be prepared always, and I'll see you all on the next video.